Welcome to another episode of the Insurance Untangled Podcast. My name is Ben Tuyene, and I'm your solo host today. Today, Naren has a leave of absence on this particular podcast episode. Thank you for joining us. As you know, we've created this podcast and dedicated it towards helping practices that are sort of tangled up with all kinds of insurance-related confusion and problems. So today we have Tessina with us. Tessina is a permanent guest on this podcast, so you'll be hearing from her a lot. Check out Dental Economics, the July-August 2024 issue, and you will find Tessina featured on the cover page of that episode. And there's an article in that particular edition that kind of explains Tessina's background. But if you want to learn more about Tessina, you can go to verusdental.com, VERUS dental.com. And Tessina is just an amazing dental professional that's kind of worn all hats dentistry, especially that of which is dealing with insurance. So Tessina, thanks for joining us again today.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. So today we want to talk about software, right? You have all kinds of different practice management softwares that exists. The top ones are Dentrix, Open Dental, and Eaglesoft. SoftDent being another one that a lot of practices use. Question I have for you, Tessina, is what's one of the trending problems you're seeing among offices that are struggling with their practice management software?
Yeah, so what I have run into in general is when offices are reaching out, they're struggling with various amounts of things, several things, and they want me to just come in, take a look, figure out why they're struggling so hard. Usually this tracks to some level of they're not feeling like they're running efficiently enough, or they're not proficient, right? Like, so they're just struggling between the staff and the patients and just trying to figure out how to get a good flow in running. So I go in and the first thing I look at is their software, not just what software they're using, but how they're using their software. 9 out of 10 times, it is not being used to its fullest capabilities. Even the software that I'm not a fan of, even the best, the worst software, has these features that offices just are not using. And when they're not using their software, guess what they're doing instead? Is they're doing everything manually. So they're calculating every treatment plan manually. They're doing all their notes manually. They're trying to remember and keep track of the insurance notes all individually, or they have them scanned in and they go visually view the breakdown and then try to get it manually. And this causes a really big bottleneck, right? Situation where everything kind of is flowing. The hygienist talks to him, the doctor talks to him, the assistant talks to him, brings him up to the front, and all of a sudden there's this big bind of like, hang on, let me get this ready for you. Or that manager or biller is running really fast while they're doing things in the back to try to hurry and have it ready before they come up front. And so it slows them down, it causes errors, and it causes a lot of stress on the, I don't know how else to say, so much stress that these girls are calling me nearly in tears of like, I don't know if I can keep up with this anymore. So that's where we get to, the software is not set up. They're not using it.
Yeah, I can appreciate what you're saying there because like in our day-to-day lives, when you really think about it, I don't know if you subscribe to like a DirecTV, YouTube channel, or any other streaming services that are out there. And the funny thing is that the vast majority of people that subscribe to these programs, they don't even maximize the use of them either. So this is sort of a human nature thing, right? Where,
Yes.
I'm sitting in a room with 15 computers, and these computer systems have all kinds of features in them. And a lot of us don't use them to the fullest extent to make our lives easier. And you talked about simplifying things such as estimates, right? Patients, co-payments, and things of that nature. I see this quite a bit in the world today, where we're missing out on a lot of efficiency. So if you're a practice owner, the purpose of this particular episode is to help identify areas in which you could be more efficient from the perspective of, are my payroll dollars being spent appropriately, right? Are we
Yes.
finding ways to use the technology that we have to streamline things so that, I don't have to spend an hour on a task that can take 1 minute if we use the practice
Yes.
management software properly, right? So speak to us, Tessina. What are some tips for dental practices on what they should be doing to improve their efficiencies and effectiveness in using practice management softwares?
Yes, and to add to your point as well, like some of the dentists are like, I don't want to spend time, messing with the computer or switching softwares. That's going to be harder or more of a headache. And they're already getting complaints from the front office and from the billers about how stressed they are and how much time they don't have. And so they're like, I don't want to add one more thing to their plate. However, if you take the time to build out your software or make sure you're using the correct software, it's going to save you so much time. I can't even explain how much time, all the time. You will have so much time if you can get this set up. All of the softwares have these automation processes and these abilities to calculate for you. You should be looking for how to calculate the downgrades. I know this sounds simple, but having the fee schedules in the software, I can't tell you how many offices I'm still running into regularly that don't put the fee schedules into the software, or some softwares that don't really allow them to put it in, except for in some weird roundabout way. That might be something you might want to look at if that's a big source of headache for you. So you want to be looking at these automations, these fee schedules, these downgrades, the coverage books, whatever they're all called. There's also spots for auto notes, and I'm not just talking about the chart notes. There are places for your insurance notes. So when you're sending a claim and every single time on a build app that you're saying that there's more than 50% of tooth structure lost, and you say that every single time on every build up, why type it every time when your software probably has a way to automate that note for you? If it doesn't, look at switching softwares, just saying. But there are some out there that go through this process, all the processes of the front office and of the billing, and they have all these automated systems for you, including those insurance notes that we always put in to know if they downgrade, how the sealants are covered. There's a way that you click one button on your keyboard and it puts in all those notes that you have pre-saved, and then you just answer question yes or no, type of thing. Saves you so much time. And the offices aren't using it. It's not set up. They don't even know that that's a feature available to them.
Wow. Yeah, it's kind of like I grew up in American Samoa, third world country, still third world. It's technology has not really come to sort of advance the culture and the lifestyle of people in the way that we have here in the United States. But I remember a simple comparison to this is that as a kid, once we were introduced to calculators, holy smokes, did it cut down a lot of basic time and doing basic calculations, right? We all knew the fundamentals on how to do math. Well, before Common Core was introduced, the math of the 80s and 90s was quite a bit different than today in terms of how to arrive at the right answers, right? Because as you know, there's a lot of different ways to find the right answers with mathematical equations. But it's as simple as giving your team members a calculator and forcing them to use it to help them save their time on things that could be automated, which those automated features are already in practice management systems, right? We just don't take time to know, right? So next question that I have, Tessina, is if practices don't have their software set up and things are sort of a mess right now, how should a practice go about fixing the problem of their practice management software that's not currently working the way it should for them based upon how they historically used it?
Yeah, this is a regular question I get. So again, when we're going in and I'm finding that it's not being used, or sometimes worse, it's being used incorrectly or in a way that's not coherent with how the program was designed to be used, which can cause a whole nother list of problems for the office. And so they're like, how do I fix it? What do I do? There is software support for all of these softwares. And it's usually included already or required for them to include it every single year, every single month. The doctor is paying that. Sorry, doc. You're paying the support piece. Why aren't we using them? Why aren't we calling and saying, I need training. This is my problem. This is what I need the software to do. Can you show me how in this software I can accomplish that? I run into software still sometimes that I haven't used before. I can usually find my way through it based on there's this general theme with all of the softwares. But if I'm not sure, I just call the software support and I say, this is what I need it to do, or this is what I'm looking for. Show me in your software how you guys apply that. And there usually is an answer for that. Occasionally I do hear oh, our software doesn't do that. Again, if you're hearing that several ways and several times, you might want to consider if it's time for a software change, which seems scary, but if it's going to save you time and money in the long run, trust me, it's worth it.
That's excellent. That's excellent. I'm a big believer in technology. Technology, if we use it correctly, can make our lives so much easier. Now, I know, Tessina, that a lot of listeners are kind of thinking, well, which practice management software do you like? Now, we do, just to kind of clarify things before we answer that question, is we have relationships with pretty much every practice management software that exists. And if any of them are listening, this is not necessarily an insult if your name isn't mentioned. It's just more of a personal preference for Tessina. And then, of course, we're going to ask her to kind of outline in her thought processes which practice management system she uses that she loves, and then also which one she would recommend to any dental practice that's out there that's outside of the one that she uses the most. So Tessina, this is a two-part question. Which practice management system in dentistry that you love, that you think is the most efficient for how you do insurance management? And then the second part of that is, what other practice management systems do you think that are really good for doctors to consider if they're thinking about switching to another software?
Yeah, my overall pick right now, and I do get asked this all the time, my overall pick is Open Dental. You guys, if you've seen me on other podcasts, I probably have mentioned it before. I love it. It has come leaps and bounds in this world of automations and streamlining the work process and the workflow, and really diving deep into these specifics of which tooth is downgraded. Is it the molars only? Is it the molars and the bicuspid? So I really love how accurate we can get with our estimates and with no time spent on us at all. You just set it up for that patient that one time, and then it's already done all the work for you. So it's my favorite right now. There's some up and coming or some that are trying to kind of get there. Dentrix, I used to be a big fan of Dentrix, but its software is as old as it is. But Dentrix Ascend has been making some changes there and some leaps. And so I don't know as much about it yet. I'm still kind of looking into it, but it seems like Dentrix Ascend, that particular version of it, is better than the old-fashioned Dentrix.
Yeah, old-fashioned Dentrix seems to be layered over a 1980s and 1970s DOS-based system, right? Yeah. And companies like Open Dental have been more forward-thinking in terms of upgrading the technology, or at least creating technology that could be upgraded easily over time as technology improves. So I appreciate your feedback there, Tessina. And so for our listeners, if you're new to the podcast, Tessina has previous episodes. She's been on the Insurance Untangled webinars that we hold quarterly. And her website is verisdental.com. And she does take clients. So Tessina, can you speak to sort of your area of expertise on if listeners are sort of thinking, hey, I really like Tessina. What does she do for a living? Can you kind of speak to that to the listeners that might be thinking about that?
Yeah, you bet. I'm in several areas. I do lots of things, right? But what I really, really hone in on and what I really love is teaching offices how to take the power back from the insurance companies and put it into their hands, where instead of asking insurance for permission or begging them to cover claims, that instead they are able to demand these things from the insurance company. I love that. I love doing that. It's so much fun. I watch offices light up and how their life changes. Also teaching them how to simplify things, how to use their softwares. I've even gone in and have rearranged staff members because Sometimes you find personality-wise that they have a staff member in the wrong position. They're a great person, they have really great skills, and they've been put in a position that doesn't highlight their skills. So that's been kind of fun for me too. I was taught to do that years ago with profiling, and it's really fun. Insurance verification, you mentioned Veris, we do that. So some offices that I train and do consulting for, we even do teach them how to do their own insurance verification properly and correctly, even if they're not wanting to sign up for my company that does the process for them. So wide vast of options there available. If somebody was needing help and was interested, they're welcome to reach out and say, this is my situation. How can you help? And we can build something customized for them.
That's excellent. Thank you. Thank you for that, Tessina. So check out Verus Dental, Verus with a V, Verus. Dental kind of sounds like verify us, kind of an appropriate thing for insurance verifications, but Verus is actually a Latin word that stands for truth. So you get the true records of verifications through Tessina's company. Tessina, thank you so much for being with us today. And to our listeners, check out her contact information in the show notes. And thank you again for joining us on an amazing episode of the Insurance Untangled podcast. Check out insuranceutangled.com. Tessina is going to be on all future webinars, as well as multiple series of podcast episodes that we'll do. If you have any interest in picking Tessina's brain in terms of having her speak on a specific insurance-related topic on this podcast, just send us an email. Just go to insuranceutangled.com, go to the contact page, and submit your request there. Thank you, Tessina, for joining us today. Always a wealth of knowledge, and it's kind of reading like an open book. Like I want to take a USB port and plug it into your brain and develop like a nice course and book on all things insurance administration. So thank you for all your knowledge that you're sharing with us.
Yes, of course.
To our listeners, thank you again for joining us on another amazing podcast. Until we meet again, have a wonderful day.